and welcome to today's podcast. I'm David Maldo, the founder and CEO of Let's Do Video, where we cover business communications and team productivity with a heavy focus on video. Today we're going to talk about some of the recent roll-ups in our industry and how they tie into our post-Infocom trends. I have with me good friend and industry expert, David Danto. David, can you please take a minute to introduce yourself?
Oh, absolutely. Hi, David. A pleasure to be with you as always. I'm David Danto. I'm Dimension Data America's principal consultant for collaboration, and I'm also the IMCCA's Director of Emerging Technology. And it's a pleasure to be with you today to just chat a little bit about what we see and what we see coming.
Thanks. First, kind of an overall theme. It seems like we had a lot of stuff leading up to Infocom, a lot of trends. Everyone's talking about huddle rooms. Interop's always a big issue. Productivity tools, these new workflow chat things. And it seems like after Infocom, everyone sort of just falls off the face of the planet. I don't know if it's the summer lull or just catching up, but is it just now a matter of sitting and waiting for the next big rise when it comes time for the conferences next year, or do you see some big things still happening?
Well, I don't know about you, but I left Las Vegas and went right to Hawaii for a week after Infocom. I needed the break. It had been a very busy year. And you're right, it is a bit of a summer lull. But for guys like you and I and some of the other people in the industry, the analysts, there are some really interesting things coming on that bode for some pretty significant change going on in the industry right about now. We had all been preparing for some examples. We've been all been preparing for a Polycom's purchase by Mitel, and at the 11th hour, we know that didn't happen, and another venture capital company came in, Cirrus Capital, came in and took them over, and they're bringing Polycom private. The Polycom leadership, they've had some interesting products come out, some pretty innovative catch-up products and some leap ahead products. So how will Polycom emerge from this privatization? Well, they're obviously going to have to build and grow or find a new niche. What the future holds for them is really it's interesting. I don't know the answer. I'm not saying it's great or it's terrible. We don't know. It's something that people hadn't been contemplating. They've been contemplating this merger with Mitel and how that would play out, and now we have this whole new space to look at. So it's kind of it's exciting, but it's also scary because we're seeing so much consolidation in the industry.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I felt like when I was analyzing the Mitel merger, there were all these little pieces of the puzzle. And, they both make phones, so there's overlap there. But, Mitel is in this market, and Polycom is better with the enterprise. They're going to be able to help each other in terms of market. And in technology, Mitel needed stronger video power, but Mitel had the UC play. So there was a lot of fitting the pieces together. And there were some questions. Is it going to make Microsoft mad because they're more of a competitor? But we sort of at least had a puzzle to try to fit the pieces into. With Cirrus Capital, they're not really, a player in they don't make phones. So what is going to happen now? Instead of this Mitel Polycom unit that we saw having a place in the industry, it's Polycom sort of with a different owner, but on its own again.
Yeah, it's going to need to make investments as an organization. It's going to need to rebuild some of the space. They had made some pretty innovative moves forward in endpoints and put some really interesting things on the table through the entire range. So you're right, it is all interesting. And it's not just them. I don't want to single Polycom out because you've got a lot of question marks going on in the industry right now. If you take a look at Acano being purchased by Cisco, we knew, that closed much earlier in the year. As of when you and I are talking, the Acano name is technically officially dead as of now. The Acano product is now called CMS, the Cisco Meeting Server, and their application is CMA, Cisco Meeting Application. And you've got Cisco with a richness of tools in the collaboration space right now. You've got Spark, which is very exciting in the cloud and doing all the interesting team chat and workstream communication, whatever acronym you want to use. You've got legacy WebEx, which just won't die no matter how many Band-Aids they put on it. There are so many people that are using it. Now you add the Acano piece in and you add everything else and you dump it all in a pot and stir, and everybody's asking, the $1 million question, what's going to come out of that? And I don't think they know yet. I think that's something that they're kind of working on trying to figure out the roadmap to.
Yeah, and it's funny, you left something out, and it's the same thing that the Cisco people leave out when they talk about the roadmap, which is Jabber. They have how many tens, hundreds, thousands of users on Jabber? It's enough of a user base that they're forced to continue to support it, but it's clearly not part of their vision. When they talk about the future, the vision is all Spark. I don't know how they're going to get WebEx into it, but it is Spark.
I think the answer at a high level is relatively easy. The answer at a high level is you get the best of everything coming together, living in the cloud if you need it, or on prem if you need it. But which elements will stay, which elements will go, how it'll be configured, what that path will be, that I think is it's been very quiet. And it's also, in all fairness, it's also Cisco's year end. July 30th is their year end, so they're concentrating on closing the books and getting the sales and making their numbers. And they have had some great numbers this year. So I wouldn't hold against them that they don't have a marketing machine out beyond that. But that's what the industry is going to be looking for: is that how are you going to take this blend of things and some of the new people coming back into the Cisco fold, and come out of it with a vision so that everybody feels good, that the people that have these products are supported, but that you're moving into the future. And I agree with you that Spark is definitely going to be the leader in that. But where do they fit the other pieces, and how do they fit? It's all speculation at this point.
Yeah, I think their dream would be that their users self-migrate, and all the WebEx users and Jabber users out there say, "Wow, look at all the great things they're doing with Spark. I'm just going to move myself over." But we know that people are a little more resistant than that, so they're going to have to
Well,
shift them.
they're not exactly parallel products. They are in some, there is certainly overlap in some, but there's a lot of very unique things in each product space. It dates me, but it always brings me back to the late 90s when Polycom and PictureTel had merged, and they finally came out with this concept called Unified 5, which is their version 5 platform software, so that every piece of equipment across their infrastructure and endpoints would work off of the same thing. I guess we're really looking for Cisco to come back with that same kind of concept, that here are all the pieces and here's how they're going to unify and here where they're going to slot in and fit in. They see it at a very high level, but how it's practically going to be there and where the pieces are going to fall, I don't know. It's anybody's guess right now.
Well, just my personal opinion, what I thought was most exciting from the Cisco Live was the integration that Spark's getting into the iPhone. It's one thing when my iPhone buzzes, it could be someone getting me on one of my many messaging apps. It could be an email from someone I flagged as an important person. It could be some silly game I downloaded notifying me it's time to play the next round or whatever. But it's some app and I usually ignore it. When my phone rings, it's someone calling me, and it's just on the phone app. If Cisco Spark is going to ring as if it's from a user's point of view, that's something you answer. That's your main means of communication. And Apple's been pretty tight about allowing the main notification, the ring of the phone, to be tied to anything but Apple stuff. So I thought that was a huge victory for them, and um, I mean that could be a big kind of boost that Spark needs to get that sort of momentum going.
Sure. I mean, I've been a Spark user since the early field trial, and I love a lot of the features of it, and I use it in productivity, daily already. There are some drawbacks. Spark messaging and communication can either be have this room contact me every time, or don't have this room contact me every time. There's no way to mark a message priority, so I mean, there are a lot of things they need to change. But that integration of Apple and Cisco is interesting. If you think back, I've got props. I've got props. This is the last time, that you had a business device integrated as tightly in workflow applications at work with the BlackBerry. Now you've got a good potential that that iPhone, which has got a very large portion of the smartphone market, could actually be integrated as a technology workflow device in corporations and organizations. So I'm excited about that. I'd love to see how it comes out. It'll be interesting to see because Apple is very tight-lipped about everything all the time anyway, and Apple doesn't want to be in the position of, even though they've partnered with Cisco, of not playing nice with other firms, Cisco's competitors. So it's going to be interesting to see how all that plays out when it comes out in the next probably month or two. We'll start to see more of that in the next version of iOS and iPhone.
Yeah, I think so. And yeah, it's definitely exciting to see, our little industry, the players in our little industry, sharing a stage with the big guys at Apple. I think that's really exciting.
It's kind of the full closure, the full circle around consumerization taking over the business piece. We've been talking about consumerization for a long time. Clearly, what Apple announces with an iPhone is bigger than a Cisco Live nowadays. Certainly from press coverage, from media coverage. You guys know that I attend CES every year in January, and that is becoming the most important conference because there is no distinction between consumer technology and business technology anymore. That being an analyst at that show is probably one of the most important things that I have because it's that 18-month look ahead, and now we're seeing it come to fruition in so many different ways.
Speaking of bringing consumer apps into business, I think one of the biggest stories continues to be Skype. I know Skype for Business is not Skype, but they're clearly marketing that way, and people are clearly thinking of it that way. It looks like Skype, and it really has the potential to make business video conferencing instead of this workplace tool, more like what you're saying, bringing consumer tools into the
Hmm.
workplace. And I think a big step, the acquisition of LinkedIn. I recently wrote an article
Mm.
about it, and I think um, I think it's a big play for them if they tie them in together. And they didn't say they're going to. I mean, this is just me projecting and guessing. But and we've talked about this before. They're in the directory hunt. They got a 500 million names or whatever with Skype. We got another, I don't know how many, 100 million with LinkedIn. If every time someone contacted me on LinkedIn, they jumped into a Skype meeting with me, that would rack up a lot of Skype minutes for Microsoft.
I would agree with you again. I don't have any inside information as well, but I think it was definitely a shrewd move by Microsoft. It certainly adds value to their Skype purchase of many years ago. That they're on the directory hunt. How do you reach out to somebody when you want to reach out to them if you don't have their email? You would either look for Skype or some messaging application, or most people in business would go to LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is a terrific platform. So it's I think it was shrewd move. I know that your friend and mine, Simon Dudley, talks many times about how most of the directories don't matter anymore because we just use it in social media and we make that contact. But I have to tell you, for Microsoft to get into that space, although I agree it's a perfectly shrewd move around business, I communicate with my family now on Facebook Messenger, and we don't care if we're texting or calling or doing video. It's a contact is a contact. And you look at Messenger and you look at WhatsApp and you look at some of the other rest of the consumer platforms that are out there, and it's going to be a big leap to get from the business platform to that ubiquitous consumer platform again. They're playing in a different space now.
Yeah, I agree. It's all part of the commoditization of video. 5 or 6 years ago, if I said I wanted to meet with you over video, we discuss which solution we want to use because which one will give us the experience we want. They were that different. Some had better screen share, some had higher definition, some had better, quality over the public internet,
Hmm.
but there was a difference. Now video is pretty good. Even the consumer stuff is pretty good. So when I want to meet with someone, I'm not thinking in terms of tools. I'm thinking in terms of directory. Like you said, I have the same thing. If I want to talk to my sister, she's on Facebook Messenger. If I want to talk to my dad, he's always on Gmail chat. So I'm not thinking in terms of, whether I want to use Google Hangouts or whatever. I'm not thinking of the tool. I'm just thinking of the directory. So by buying this massive directory and this business directory, it's pretty clear to me what Microsoft is trying to get into there.
Yeah, and the other thing that I would say though is that for you and I, first of all, we're freaks. We could probably communicate at any given moment right now in the middle of this call using 19 different platforms and 18 pieces of hardware and software. So, that we can move around more quickly than the average person does. But for enterprises, clients, organizations that are using video, when you get into this environment where you've got to, it's not okay that a call drops or you're subject to QoS rules that don't work or that the internet is bad. Everything's got to be working in exactly the same way. What I think you find is that you still want to make the argument for, all right, I want one provider or one or two providers that don't just give me the least expensive equipment, because God, prices are going down tremendously, but can I manage it? What do I have to do? If you think of the typical video conference room of 15 years ago, even 10 years ago, you get a call, you're the manager of that room, you get a call and the call says the room's broken. Oh, great, the room's broken. What's the first thing you have to do? You have to send somebody to first find out if that's true. Right? You can't accept that the room is broken. You have to send, and they go, your technician, your escalation point, and they test it. And if they find that it actually is broken, they still can't fix it. Now they have to call the vendor. The vendor's got to come in and they do the same thing. They have to verify what's actually wrong, and then they probably can't fix it. They have to then call the manufacturer and get a part shipped. So that whole cycle goes away now for enterprises that are putting in one-piece appliances or these off-the-shelf systems where you get the first call from the end user that says the room doesn't work. You know what? I don't care if it's true or not. I'm calling up my partner. I'm opening up my TAC case if it's Cisco or whatever, and I'm saying, room A is not working. Send me another part overnight. Send me another system overnight. The whole system gets dropped in, taken out. You never had to verify or troubleshoot. Upload it from the infrastructure and done. So, it's a long way of saying I still think there's a lot of value for enterprises and organizations to have a hardware-centric model for service. Because that's really what differentiates whether this stuff works. Does it work all the time in all the meetings? For us, for consumerization, yeah, it is really the Wild West out there. We can find, for everybody who's going to do it for $1, we can find somebody who can do it for 50 cents. And for everybody who'll do it for 50 cents, we'll find somebody who'll do it for free.
Yeah, we've reached the point of freemium video, good freemium video.
Yep.
But I think you made a good point about when you go beyond freemium into business features, it's not just quality and more connections or whatever. Manageability is huge, and I want to give credit to our industry, the vendors in our industry, because I think they get it. They get that. Not just the last few briefings, the last few quarters worth of briefings. When I speak with vendors and I say, oh, what do you have that's new? Oh, now you have recording, or now you have this, or now you have that. They really want to stress, we've beefed up our manageability. The IT people, they can, now they can mute the people in the rooms if someone has a dog barking, or now they can see what the packet loss is. They're always adding their manageability. We can, in the middle of a call, we can solve the problem. We can have reports so we could fix things, and they're very excited about that. And they want to make sure that when I write about them, I carry that through. And it's a little hard for me because I try to face the users who care about, is it easy to make a call and does it look good? But I do want to stress that it really is important, and I like when I can report that people are getting it in the industry, and I think they are on that one.
And the flip side of that coin is a pet peeve of me, that there are still manufacturers and software providers out there that are trying to pick off the low-hanging fruit, saying, no, we've got a cheap solution, slap it on a TV and you're done. And we know that's not the case. We know that it's deceiving the end user without that manageability and without that platform. And I feel really bad that this far in the industry, we still have to fight those messages from those companies that are, either putting out, islands of video that don't communicate with anybody else, that don't have any management capabilities, that say, oh, we're cheap, it's fine, just put it on a TV. And then the first time they get it in there, they realize the microphone's too far away and the picture stinks. And so it's a shame that, this many years into the industry, we still have to fight those beasts that are out there, but we do, and when we get somebody who's been using that and show them some of this high quality stuff, it's a major leap forward for organizations.
Yeah, the dream for me one day is we get to the point where an entire room is one SKU. You just say, this is my sales meeting room, and it's one number, and you order it, and it comes with the right size, whether it's a whiteboard or whatever you're going to share screen on. Everything from the dimmers to the shades to the software that connects it, it's all there. But for now, it's like you said, it's a hodgepodge. Everything has to connect, and they're all different vendors, all different manufacturers, and it is tough.
Well, remember, we'll have to walk you through Dimension Data's catalog. We do that for clients, but that's a sales pitch. That's another story.
Well, moving on to the last acquisition I want to talk about today. This I thought was really interesting, the LogMeIn and GoToMeeting. This is a little bit different just because it's not as much, in my mind, not as much of a synergy as a complete overlap. This really shows that our market's getting saturated and needs to roll up.
Well, it's not just GoToMeeting. It was the entire GoTo platform. Citrix had a number of applications that were directed for certain business verticals to do certain things, training, education. There were a whole bunch of them. But you're right. This is really just consolidation because a couple of years ago the difference between a web conference and a video conference went away. All of the vendors now have high quality video conferencing products that also provide, for the most part, web conferencing tools as well. So some of the legacy only web conferencing firms are going to have to start consolidating, collapsing a little bit before the industry goes away. I just don't think that they could survive and make money as separate entities.
Yeah, even within the companies, isn't there a GoToMeeting and a GoTo web conference? I mean, there's different GoTos that it should be GoToVideo, right? They could all be the same thing now.
Well, that's the change that's taking place. There's very little difference now between a video conference and a legacy web conference. Very little difference in price. A lot of the major office suppliers, we talked about Microsoft, we talked about Cisco. These are features of their existing core products and infrastructure now. These are not things organizations need to go out and buy. And in this whole world of unified communications and team chat and workstream communications, you now want to have a unified set of tools, so it's not so hard to launch a separate meeting. the Microsoft platform does a great job of this, where you click on Skype for Business meeting, one click, and your invitation populates with everything that you could possibly connect to. You want to connect from this, from that, from this, it's just available. Cisco has similar to that as well. Cisco's I can't say Econo anymore. Cisco's CMS product supplements that Skype for Business meeting if you use an on-prem solution, where it'll also add in lines to do WebRTC, and it'll add in lines to do your legacy systems. That's where the industry wants to go. A meeting is a meeting is a meeting. You don't have to differentiate use case. You click it, you invite people, they show up, and everybody meets. And all these other one-off fringe products that only do video, or they only do web share, or they only do control of a desktop, that's what we're going to see consolidate and probably eventually go away.
Yeah, in some ways the technology already has consolidated, and some vendors are making a false distinction in order to not confuse the market. It might be a little confusing, but let me explain. There's at least 2 cloud vendors that I know of that can support meetings with thousands of people in them. But if they just sold video conferencing and said, oh, by the way, you could have meetings with thousands of people and keep 999 of them muted and broadcast, it would confuse people. So they sell their video conferencing solution and they sell their webcasting solution. It's the same thing. It looks the same. It feels the same. The buttons are the same. It's the same codecs going through and everything. It's the same technology. But they had to productize it differently because the market just doesn't understand that all video is the same anymore. The market thinks, I need to buy one tool to do 8-person meetings, and I need to buy another tool to do 1,000-person broadcasts. So we're kind of dragging along this false distinction between the 2 tools. But I think we need to for a while until people get it.
Yeah, and a lot of young people are coming into the workplace, whether you want to call them, Gen Y or millennial or however you want to, you're starting to see people that have never dialed a phone, that have never played a record, that don't understand these. What do you mean there's got to be this stuff on my desk? I do everything from my mobile. So in a mobile first world, you're starting to see, and what you're going to see probably over the course of the next 5 to 10 years is things will change. If you look at what's gone on in 3D printing right now, just as one tangential example, the world of prosthetic limbs for people that have suffered loss of limbs has been so incredibly expensive, and now you're able to do 3D printed limbs for a fraction of the cost and change people's lives. That's a very serious example of this kind of situation where, to record a town meeting, we would have gone, you and I might have gone in and gotten a video camera, and we would have gotten a VCR. The last VCR is being manufactured this month. Yep. We would have gotten all of these tools to go into the room, and somebody who has grown up with these things is just going to walk in with their smart device, and they're going to put it on Facebook Live or Periscope or whatever is the application du jour, and all of a sudden they are going to have changed the paradigm completely. The term that everybody's using is Uberized. They're going to change the market around a paradigm that didn't exist before. So I think in collaboration, we're going to see more and more of that, as at what used to be used as the technology to do something isn't necessarily going to be what we use going forward. We have to shed the expense and shed the silliness, but we can't lose the management capabilities like you and I were talking about.
Yeah. I think we've already taken the first step in that direction, which is we're starting to use the phone as a remote control device to manage the systems in the room. Some vendors already have it out, others are working on it, but you have your video conferencing solution against the wall, and you walk in and you open your app, and that makes the call for you. So I think the first step is using this to control it, and the next step is this will be the brains. This will be running whatever, you still have your big screen and your camera up there, but the meeting will be run through this, and this will be
peripherals. Yeah,
be everything. Yeah, everything will just be peripherals.
Yep, and I agree with you, and you should definitely look at Cisco Spark and what they've done. They just announced, I assume they said by the end of July, so it's after July when we're recording this, the capability to use their smartphones from any of their video endpoints now exists across the spectrum in Spark. So you go into the room, and when you get next to the machine, they contact each other automatically. Your picture goes up over there. You swipe up and start the meeting. Swipe down to take the meeting off. I mean, it's really leading edge in terms of what's going on, and it's going to make ease of use simple because this device knows who I am, it knows my calendar, and it knows my preferences. So all I really need to do in terms of controlling the room is a button that says start now or no. I don't need any other buttons because it knows everything. I've preset it. That's really going to be the future of UC and control and capabilities around the user experience.
Yeah, exactly. And it follows into what we've been hoping for a long time, which is meetings that invite people and not systems. It doesn't matter which room I'm in, that room will light up because that's where I am. You're not going to call meeting room A and hope David's there. You're going to call me.
Yep, that's how it works. That's how it works today for us. Now we got to push that down to the non-geeky people and the non-nerds that don't use this technology every day.
Exactly. Well, I'm gonna take it easy on you. You know, it would be fun to try to speculate what the next big trends are going to be, but it's going to be so long till we start hearing those pre-show buzzes. You know, I mean, there's some things that are easy to predict, like what we were just talking about. You know, control getting easier, huddle rooms are going to continue to be hot, but things have been moving so fast in this industry. It's hard for me to believe that when I'm talking to you in 6 months, getting ready for EC and Infocom, that we're just going to be talking about more of the same. I feel like there's going to be something that I feel like we have more surprises coming towards us.
Well, don't forget there is going to be an Infocom Connections in New York that the IMCCA is doing in November. So that's for the people that are in the East Coast. That's certainly worthwhile to come around and take a look at some of the sessions that we're doing there. And I expect we're going to get some news between now and the end of the year. The next big trade show that I'm probably going to be at, short of the staging show that I go to every year in October, is going to be CES, first week of January. January 2nd or 3rd, I think the press conferences start, and that's where you start to see what have these companies been working on, what's going to be the latest in technology coming out, and how will it then disrupt everything all over again.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's getting more and more fun every year.
Yep.
All right. Well, this is a lot of fun. Thanks for joining me today, and thanks everyone for watching. If you like this, please check us out at letsdovideo.com, and please be sure to sign up for my newsletter.